Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the 100 Days of Growth with me. Today, we are looking at another exciting topic, why your form loses everything when you go back. So, when you work with, forms and those kind of long forms that have a lot of fields, maybe, multi-step forms and all that, right? Why your form loses everything when you go back, when users try to, they access a new page and then they go back and all of that, which is like really really bad UX. So today we are going to look at how we can build UX that matters to users. So let's jump right in. So today is going to be, I'm going to be using slides. So I won't be writing code because I already have more like pseudocode I've written down. So I'm just going to walk us through the whole thinking around how you can implement this kind of UX into your code, how you can improve your forms to make them a lot more better, and how you can handle them, moving forward. So I'm going to show you reasons why they happen, and I'm going to show you the code, like the fix to each of these reasons. So number one, SPAs re-render components. Think about it. SPAs like React, Vue, and Angular, they are component based, and basically the components mount and unmount based on interactions with users and how you write your code. And when users leave that page to the next page, the state is completely lost, and because component re-renders. So there are different cases where components get to like unmount and remount. Sometimes some of the most unexpected reasons why components re-render, especially with like SPAs, is because users use devices that have very very little memory, and so due to lack of memory, the Chrome browser is not able to like persist that component, especially when users switch tabs. This is something that I have experienced personally, even with my own device. When your phone starts to lag, you notice that when you come back, that tab forces your page to like reload, and then for some reasons, right, you just lose your data completely, and then probably you have to start afresh. And so because it renders, state is lost, and users have to start again. Number two reasons is because browsers don't catch states in SPAs. But browsers can kind of catch states in pure vanilla JS, like HTML vanilla JS website, but in SPAs browsers do not catch state. So like that's completely left to state to manage, and you can like easily lose that. But with BF catch for browser navigations, that is something that is quite possible. Number three, you never saved it anywhere, which is like what we talked about in reason one. Whenever states your component renders, state is completely lost because you didn't save it anywhere. So the next slide, there are real scenarios where this affects UX. For instance, job application form, because these forms are usually long, like, so users have to like fill a lot of details in, and this is where job application forms comes in. We also have checkout forms, we have multi-steps forms, we have accidental refresh. These are some of like the practical examples where all of these apply and things can go really really bad. So let's jump right in to see the fix. So fix one is to save to session storage. Notice I said session storage, not local storage, and I prefer session storage in this scenario over local storage because think about it. If a user, session storage stores only data for that session which is on that tab. If you switch from that tab to the next tab, you most likely not get that data, right? But local storage stores across the browser, so the data for local storage are available on every single tab. Now the reasoning behind using session storage is that if a user closes the form tab where he is, then it most likely indicates that he's not interested or it's intentional, right? So at such instances, you should not want to persist the data, because imagine if the user comes back tomorrow, okay, maybe there's a change of mind, and then you are like showing him the data from yesterday. It might feel like, oh, why are you tracking me, something like that. So I think it's best, it's best you go with session storage for things like this. And then you can this is like a practical vanilla JS example. So when you use session storage, you know that your data is persisted across refresh, component renders and all that, and you are safe. So you get the form, you get the name input, all of the inputs, you create a storage key. So this is, we create two functions, one that loads the save data and another that saves storage data. So you get, so to get the storage data, you just get it using the storage key. And then if the value is saved, you pass your JSON, and then you pass in the data to the form input, and you save it. Also, to save it, you just um since you already have the name input, you access the value directly, create a JavaScript object, and you stringify it, and you save to session. So this is like helper methods that you can always call instead of like writing long code on every single you know so this is where we are going to use the helper method to save the storage, and to load save data. And then here on submit, we completely clear the data of this session storage. Why? Because at this point the user doesn't need data anymore. He has submitted, so we don't need it anymore. We can move on. Next is to also, on every input, every time the user types, so we add an event listener on every input, right? We save to storage. So that's it. So this way we know that the data is persisted across whatever the instance or whatever the situation could be. If the user refreshes the page, as long as he's on that tab, the data is stored, and then he can easily get access to it. The component re-renders, whatever the case is, as long as that tab is still active, as long as that tab has not been destroyed from the browser history, the user can still access his data. Another practical fix is to use what we call the show unsafe changes warning. Now, this does not apply to in-app SPAs like routing, when you are trying to, like, when you handle routing in-app application like React, Angular, and Vue, because the routing system in these SPAs is completely different from the browser routing system. The browser routing system lives in the browser memory. In SPA, routing system lives in the SPA memory. So for instance, in React router DOM handles routing, so it is completely handled internally, not browser wide. So you may not be able to just get access to like browser wide memory routing system, but this is the fix we can apply. You can call the event to add event listener, and then before unload, this is an event, so before unload we can handle before unload. So what handle before unload basically is doing is just saying if there is like has unsafe changes, which is most likely like a state. So if the user is still typing, right, if the changes has not been saved, so we can now have maybe like say a function where the user save form, and then on this save form we can do something like save logic, and then this is where we now call set has unsafe changes to false, right? But up on this point, unsafe changes is going to be true. So if it is true, we are going to so this line here is going to tell the browser, it's going to give a warning: you have unsafe changes, are you sure you want to leave this page? And if the user clicks yes, he leaves. If the user clicks no, he stays. So this like tells the user that ahead that we are not trying to save your data anywhere. So you have to be aware that if you lose your data, it's completely up to you. And this is the vanilla JS solution. So when user starts typing, unsafe changes becomes true. When you submit, unsafe changes becomes false, and then you just you warn the user before he leaves, and this way the user is aware. The number 3 fix is for in-app routing. React, for example, has what we call the use blocker. This is a way to like notify users ahead of time with a prompt, like to block them and say, okay, use blocker. So if the user is, so we get access to the current location and the next location, so we can check if has changes is true, which means the user has not saved the form, and the current location, the path name, is not equal to the next location, the path name. So if the user is trying to access a new page, we can like completely block the user and tell the user that, okay, you are trying to leave this page. And basically it does the same thing with this, but this time around this is like for in-app routing in React router, right? Because the previous one we saw was for like browser-wide routing. So maybe the user is trying to leave your SPA to a completely new page entirely, not in-app. That is triggered. Now this is when the user is trying to leave, try to reroute in-app, and this gets triggered, right? So these are some of the fixes you can introduce into your application for form management to improve UX for your application and give user a better experience. I believe you've been able to learn something today. If you did, you can drop it in the comments. You can share it to your friends so they can watch and also learn. And if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, do well. Turn on the notification buttons and so that you can always get notified. Thank you and see you tomorrow. Bye.